kids in the MAGA hats come across as douchey. Granted, they come across as douchey, but we're all supposed to act like this guy isn't a toothless far-left activist instigator seemingly on an opium vision quest? I don't understand. Leading this show with sports news from the weekend, the Patriots beat the Chiefs. So that went on.
Yeah, there you go.
So this weekend, okay, for those people who were not following, there was a huge clash between some kids in MAGA hats and a Native American elder.
Yes.
Let me ask you this, question of the day. Does finding out what the full story is now, what's transpired, has it changed your opinion? For those of you who haven't been following, we'll kind of fill you in a second. So for those who are following this weekend, this is most likely all you saw. That kid didn't even know he was being filmed. Now, this might seem nonsensical to some people watching, but if you were on Twitter or Instagram, basically everyone covered it this way. A group of kids in MAGA hats surrounded Native American veterans, a veteran specifically, taunted him with chants of build a wall until he cried. That's pretty much how it was covered. There was the outrage mob there was the outrage mob on Twitter.
A single tear like you just saw pollution.
Right, exactly. I saw a MAGA hat by the roadside. Also, my drum's out of beat. Meth will do that. This is a terrible start. Many on Twitter right away, they started with the outrage mob against the kids. Here's the thing. Many conservatives actually took the side of Nathan Phillips, the Native American elder, without waiting for the full story. If you notice, one person did not react immediately. Yours truly. Here's why. When I see this sort of thing, when I see this kind of a story, I think to myself, sleep on it.
Well, you, like every other person out there, should have learned by now that you can't just judge what the media gives you, right? Especially edited clips of videos. Well, especially when it didn't show anything other than people standing there.
Yeah, but the thing is that it's getting to the point where you have to think that with literally every story that's on the news, because I only saw this, I was watching the morning news on Sunday, and I thought to myself, wow, there's a punk kid acting like a punk kid at a school field trip.
Everyone would have seen Bourbon. Everyone who would have seen the first clip, that's what they would have. Here's what actually happened.
I didn't even see the clip. I didn't show the picture.
What actually happened? Let me kind of go point by point for people who haven't really been following. Point one: the Native American elder actually was the one who initiated the confrontation, not the high school kids. Yeah. The kids were already there waiting for a bus doing a school chant. One activist group, the Black Israelites, I've had my run-ins with them, can't go to heaven, by the way, because there's not enough melanin in my skin. That's what they told me. They were already taunting the kids. Okay, then there was a second group led by Nathan Phillips, Native American guy. He approached them, got in their faces with the drums, and that's what brings you to what you're seeing here.
See how much they respect you, Israel? That's right. Here come Gad. Here come Gad.
There he is coming in.
Here come Gad.
A little confusing.
Because usually when someone says, "Here come Gad," it's that signals peaceful intent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
and it's not like they accosted the students or anything, but if somebody walked up to you at this location beating a drum and then got like in your face, what reaction would you have?
I would just think they were high. By the way, hit the notification bell, join Mug Club so you can see the daily show, or subscribe on iTunes for those who listen to Thursday show, because for some reason iTunes sometimes they tend to vary. Okay, here's what we were going to say, Brodigan.
I was just going to say, I always think of the Colin Quinn joke, how the Black Israelites are the longest running show on Broadway.
Yes, exactly. Next point for people, go watch it's funnier when Colin Quinn tells it.
Yes.
Point number two, that here, despite the initial coverage, the MAGA hat kids, they never chanted "Build the Wall."
No.
This is really important.
Didn't do that at all.
So Nathan Phillips, he claimed that the students taunted him, and the media ran with this with, quote, "Build the wall." Well, don't take my word for it.
I heard them saying, "Build that wall, build that wall." This is indigenous lands.
First off, I cannot verify that that's true. I assume it's incorrect. Second, 2 hours of raw video has been released. At no point do the kids chant anything about the wall. We can't show you the full 2 hours here. You can see this a little. There's been tons and tons of videos. You can go look it up.
Make America great.
You can go look it up and watch for yourself.
Yes, we will.
And of course, as more evidence emerged, by the way, it became increasingly clear that Native Americans were just looking for a bar fight. We know that now. It seems a little clear. Shit. By the way, Nathan Phillips, something else that nobody covers, Nathan Phillips, not just some random Native American elder. He's a far-left activist who has a long-standing history of instigating confrontation and then claiming racial harassment. And by the way, okay, I know I'm about to voice a very unpopular opinion here because no one dared say this, but everyone, and I mean everyone, has been acting as though this man is a wise sage and we should all admire him.
We always took care of our elders. We took care of our children. We always provided for them. We taught them right.
You did?
I mean, is it me? Because if the kids in the MAGA hats come across as douchey, granted, they come across as douchey, but we're all supposed to act like this guy isn't a toothless far-left activist instigator seemingly on an opium vision quest? I don't understand. The thing is, you have to light it from the bottom and use a torch lighter. None of that Bic, said my aunt. Really? You take care of your own? You take care of your own? Nathan Phillips? That's a typical Native American
name.
Yes. It's like Mr. Miyagi, who is also traditionally named Patrick.
High Chief Pete Jones.
Yes. You take care of... Is that why we see rampant unemployment and drug addiction in Native American communities? Is that why Native American high schoolers have 2 to possibly 3 times more opioid abuse than the rest of the population? They're not faring so well. No. We used to take care of our elders. Have you been to a Native American reservation recently? Does it seem like they're thriving? Like it's the neighborhood that you want to visit to go look at Christmas lights? Not exactly, I would say. Yes, Gerald.
It's the train wreck of socialism in progress right now. We get to look at it and go, what would socialism be like if we provided for everybody anything that they wanted? What would that look like? Look at the Native American reservations. Horrible.
We take care of our elders. Oh, so you don't need the money anymore. No. We want the dough. Don't get us wrong. We still want you to make it rain and huff Windex. Here's the story has reopened. I can tell you guys don't want to go along with me on this. You guys are cowards. It's reopened some old wounds, meaning there are valuable lessons, I think, to be learned here. So, and by the way, frankly, these are lessons that should have been learned a long time ago. Oh, yeah. So let's go. Yeah. Lesson number 1, sleep on it. Just wait. The benefit, okay, let's kind of weigh the pros and cons here. The risk-reward ratio. The benefit of jumping on something immediately is that maybe, just maybe, you break the story slightly earlier than the Occupy Wall Street Facebook page. But that's not worth having egg on your face when it turns out to be false, or even worse, finding out, by the way, that you wrongfully smeared a real person's actual reputation, which is what we run into all the time.
Yeah, this is especially true whenever there's a brand new, like, anti-Trump blockbuster.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Always give it 48 to 72 hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
Never holds up.
And it seems like they're purposefully ruining people's reputations. You know, like in journalism, you're supposed to wait until you have some confirmation before you break a story, even if it's a huge breaking story that you want to get out there. And people are basically doing it for a few more likes or a few more shares. Or a few more things on Facebook.
I think there's more to it than that, which we'll kind of get to in a second after the lessons. But I think you're right. Lesson number 2, I think that's really important, by the way. Unlike the left, who defend their own at all costs, conservatives, a little too quick to cannibalize. Don't jump at that. And I get it. We often criticize the left for refusing to call out their own, and I think rightfully so,
of course.
Especially when they pile around with pro-Hitler anti-Semites like Farrakhan. But too far in the other direction, conservatives are not only willing to call out their own, it seems they're overly eager to cannibalize their own just to prove a point. Don't do that. Don't sacrifice someone else's reputation just because of your desire to appear like a reasonable conservative trademark, as I see it on Twitter. Because here's something else. Someone can be a dick, and they can also be right. For reference, see our president.
Yeah, and the left's attacks are working because they're making us feel so bad about holding the viewpoints that we have that when somebody in our camp does something seemingly inappropriate, we're like, oh gosh, we have to. Like, their attacks are working. They've done it so many times. Right. It makes us come out against our own people when they didn't even do anything wrong.
Well, it's like this term compassionate. I'm a compassionate conservative. I say, well, hold on, wait a second. What do you mean? You mean that all of the other conservatives who believe in equality for all and freedom of opportunity and freedom across the board, they're not compassionate? What do you mean? I support model cities. Oh, shut up! Come on!
And the other thing is, for all the criticizing that we do towards liberals about how quickly they go to outrage, we go from 0 to, oh my God, I'm offended, falling back on my fainting couch really quick.
I wouldn't say we. I would say there are some conservatives.
Yeah, some conservatives.
Have you watched this show?
Yes, okay.
Have you been present?
The longest hire on this show.
Did you open the Cosby pills in your bourbon? Lesson 3.
I don't know what to do here.
Okay. This is something important to remember. You got your headphones going? We're at war.
Yeah.
This was a lesson, by the way, that Andrew Breitbart tried to teach us. The media tries to paint this, and I was watching, unfortunately, CNN on Sunday. I do it almost every Sunday because
why?
I do it so that you don't have
Thank
to.
you.
You should be thanking me.
I just
But they
did.
try to say, Trump tries to paint this as though it's Trump versus the media. When
It
really,
is.
we're looking. That's exactly what it is. And it's
Yeah.
it's not only the media versus Trump. It's the media versus anyone on the right. And by the way, it's always been this way.
Yeah.
The idea that it started with Trump. This whole debacle. It's very similar to when was it Congressman Clyburn?
Yeah.
I think it was
think so,
Clyburn
yeah.
who claimed the Tea Party protesters called John Lewis the
yeah.
N-word. By the way, the media, they played the clip, they ran the headline, and you assumed you heard. I remember this. I assumed that I heard it the first time it ran because they showed the congressman walking up the steps. And then the chyron says, called the N-word. And so
Right.
what does it do? It tricks you where you go, oh, well, of course,
They must
they're
have done
showing
it.
the clip.
He got mad.
They wouldn't just silence the audio and say he was called the N-word. They could never do that. But it never happened. No one ever said the N-word, just like none of these kids, none of them ever chanted build the wall. Andrew Breitbart, by the way, offered to donate $100,000 to the Negro College Fund for evidence that anyone said the N-word. And here's what's important about that. You can go back and watch the people who are kind of new. You came in with the alt-right, kind of this new troll conservative. I get it. I'm glad that you guys are on board and you're developing. But a lot of you aren't familiar with what happened with Andrew Breitbart. They dragged his name through the mud over this.
yeah.
He offered $100,000 to the college fund for anyone who had any evidence saying the N-word. Okay? Here's what matters. There was more footage than you could watch in a lifetime of the walk up the steps from every single angle. Michael Bay couldn't have this many cameramen on the payroll. All right? And it showed the opposite.
Yeah.
No evidence of the N-word, which some could say is evidence of the opposite.
Yeah.
Because one thing I remember from that time is that was also when Democrats first started. Well, if you were a Jewish Democrat, you happened to get a fact from someone who said a Jewish slur.
Right.
And if you were a Hispanic Democrat, you happened to get a fact from someone who had a Hispanic slur. And then when Eric Cantor pointed out, it's like, oh, by the way, I'm a Republican, and I have Democrats and people who are against me sending Jewish slurs towards me. All of a sudden, the media didn't care.
Right. And when the Republicans like, I got an envelope with white powder in it.
Must be some more powder cocaine for you. Look, the retractions that happen after this too don't make any difference whatsoever, right? Once you say it and you put it out there, everybody's like, oh, of course they were yelling the N-word at people. It doesn't matter. I mean, Breitbart did something very laudable, but ultimately, how many people on the left said, oh, maybe they're right?
Well, at that point, his platform wasn't big enough to really combat
No.
the media. That was the issue
Right.
that he was running up against.
Exactly.
That's why we're so grateful for people who joined Mug Club, and we're grateful that we're able to be surpassing the big leftist channels here on
Boom.
YouTube. But if you look at this with the MAGA hat kids, I guess is the story how it's being told. Are we supposed to believe that CNN didn't have the ability to find the full footage? This is honestly, because we did. To do the
How
basic
limited are
research,
their
the
capabilities?
same media who tells us, by the way, they tell us that they're real journalists, and they go, well, we hate Donald Trump's attack on the press because true journalism, not some bloggers out there with fake news. We matter, and we're the backbone of the American traditional institutions of truth. Really? So we're supposed to believe here that so there are only two options here, okay? Option number one, either CNN and the rest of the media are grossly incompetent. They didn't have access to the clips or couldn't be bothered to do basic research. By the way, the kind of basic research that we do on this, a comedy show. Or, number two, they acted out of malice. They acted in malice in that they had access to the full footage and they ran the story as you saw it anyway. Probably number two, based on the fact that CNN was still pushing the story the morning after it had already been debunked.
Yeah.
Well, I would really go with third option there. Both. I think they're both incompetent and
very
they have
likely.
malicious intent. They have a worldview and they're looking to push that worldview, period, no matter what evidence comes against them at all.
Yeah, I think this is also the result of when you get kids going to the Columbia School of Journalism looking to be the next Samantha Bee. Because
I don't know that that's a thing,
a
but I'll
real
go with
journalist.
you.
Yeah.
Not a real
I
journalist.
was going to say Jon Stewart, but I'm actually a fan of his comedy. But
Yeah.
no. But the thing is that they're attacking these stories not from looking for a place of truth. They're attacking it from a place of we hate Donald Trump.
Right.
So the normal vetting that would go into like checking to see if these were accurate, like say
I don't think it's exclusive to Donald Trump, though. I mean, remember Dan Rather?
It's worse.
And the forging with forging the documents with Bush?
It's always been like this for the right. I think it's definitely been worse for Donald Trump.
Yes.
They're not even pretending to.
Well, because
It's more
he's
than
not
up to
going
100.
silently into the
Yeah.
night, because
Yes.
Donald Trump is calling them out for it. And I don't think, and I know you were not a big fan of President Trump, and I certainly wasn't in the primaries, but I will say this, at this moment in time, I don't think that any other candidate, had they become president, would have highlighted the media for their dishonesty like he
No,
does.
absolutely.
I think he's a lightning rod in that
Well, and they
respect.
blame Donald Trump for the division. He is a result of the division that they created, right? At least in part, right? Their part of it created Donald Trump. If they're pissed at anybody for Donald Trump being president, they need only look at themselves.
Right. Yeah, you do this enough with the MAGA kid and the Native American story, and you say, look at this, and then what you end up with, you say, what do you think about Alexandria Cortez? And Donald Trump says, who cares? That's what happens.
Yeah.
You end up with, who cares? Screw you. Yeah, but you said the MAGA kid attacked the old Redskins, so I don't care what you have to say. That's what happens. And by the way, yes, we should be reasonable. Okay? We shouldn't have a herd mentality of disagreeing with our opponents just for the sake of disagreement. But compromising just for compromising's sake is just as shameful. You don't become, this is what bothers me when you see conservatives cannibalizing themselves. You don't all of a sudden become reasonable by randomly agreeing with the left every once in a while. By like, well, I'll throw them a bone because the kid had a douchey hat. That's what happened here. Many on the right forgot that the media is waging a war against us. They wanted to appear reasonable. They wanted to appear even-handed as opposed to looking for truth. So they sided against these high school kids who did nothing but really stand and smile. Honestly, I get it. Privileged white kids, we're all supposed to hate them, wearing a MAGA hat, and he has a shit-eating grin, so we're supposed to... I understand that, but the truth is, this really isn't all that different from any kind of a civil rights protest where they say, don't be violent, just stand and smile. If the Native American were holding a rifle and he were putting a daisy in there, it would be an iconic picture.
Well, I mean, not for him, because he's white.
Right, no, exactly. And he just get run over with a tank. By the way, this, of course, opened the floodgates to countless articles, people who don't want to talk about this. The conservatives who virtue signaled and said, oh, I can't believe these kids, they should be ashamed of themselves. It opened the floodgates to countless articles about the school being being against LGBTQAIP. I was just reading in the Huffington Post this morning how they need to be shut down, and by proxy, the Pences being evil supervillains. You get the point. So remember the lessons here. If you see a controversial news story, okay, sleep on it. Be skeptical, and don't crucify one of your own in a panic over the media, especially not publicly. That's what's really important. Wait for the evidence, and remember, when it comes to truth, when it comes to the access to information right now, don't forget, we are absolutely in a war. We are at war. Remember that. We have AJ Styles coming up after the break. Ooh. Hey there, YouTube viewer. If you like this video, I would say subscribe, hit the notification bell, or watch one of these videos playing in a box that we've personally uploaded and programmed for your viewing pleasure. The problem is now, in today's day and age on YouTube in 2018, any of those three things that you do, any of those three buttons that you click will take you directly to a Seth Meyers video. So stay here and join Mug. Get off of here. Go to louderwithcrowder.com/mugclub. It's the only safe place you can go and join.